Hi, my name is Paul. Welcome to my workshop. Today I'm going to be talking to you about circle cutting jig for my bandsaw. I need to make the baffling for my dust separator in my steel garbage can. Now, some people don't mind taking their stock, sliding it up against their blade, and then cutting their circle. I personally don't like that. I find that there could be a flat spot of where you started. You may have to sand it all afterwards anyway, but for me, I like to cut the circle right out of an entire stock piece of wood. So what I needed was something that could adjust the size of the circle, slide the workspace into the blade, have it stop at top dead center, and then continue spinning your stock until you get the perfect circle coming out. So here's my version. It's just your basic piece of plywood. I've got my miter gauge on here that goes into the miter slot of the bandsaw, and you can see I want the blade to go through here and stop right at this line, which is right center of my pivot point, and I want that blade, the teeth of that blade, to stop right at this line, which is top dead center. So I have a slider here. This particular slider, adjust to any length, has a little locking mechanism on the back in order to lock it where you want to go. I put pieces of masking tape on and mark my measurements that I need. I've already done that for my baffling that I'm going to make. I also have a stop block. Depending on the size of the blade that you put on your bandsaw, you want this to slide in, have the blade stop right at that line. If I had my stock on top of it, I would not see that. So I put a stop block here. Again, I can adjust it to wherever I want. And when it goes in, and it will hit, the stop block will hit the side of the table and stop that blade exactly on that line. I also have various types of sliders. This one has a 1/4 inch dowel in it, which means I have to drill a 1/4 inch hole right in the center of my stock in order to pivot on this. Another one that I have is one with just a pin, a little nail going through it. Again, slide it in, put your wood on top of it, push it down so it pivots on that hole, on that nail, and you can go from there. The one I like to use is the same thing, just a slider, but I drilled a 3/4 inch hole in the middle. What I have is I have these little 3/4 inch dowels glued into a square piece of MDF, and I can put double-sided tape on the back of it. So now I can put this, just stick it on with tape right in the center of my piece of work, flip it over, have it sitting on top of my slider, have it spin, cut my circle out, pull this off afterwards, and leave no marks of where your pivot point was. That's the one I'm going to use today. So let's take a look at my stock that I'm going to use. I need to cut a baffle that's going to be 16 3/8 inches in diameter, which happens to be the size of my garbage can. So I've cut out my stock a little bit bigger, so I've cut it out to 16.5 square. I've of course drawn a line from one corner to the next. One line will be the entire length. I'll explain why in a minute. The other one can just be a short line that's going to mark my center. I've done that on both sides because I'm going to be flipping it over and cutting another part of the circle, and you'll see why later. Okay, first thing is that all the reading I've done on baffling says that you need a solid part 120 degrees in an arc, and the open part, the remainder of the circle open, 1¼ inches in. I don't know who came up with those numbers, but I feel that it's good enough for me. I'm not going to argue with engineers. So Some people ask, how do you find out exactly 120 degrees? Well, it's really easy. You don't have to be a mathematician for this. You just need a piece of wood and a pencil. Let me show you how I've done that. Okay, here we are. This is my stock on top of my table saw. Normally, I draw these lines with a pencil. However, you probably wouldn't have been able to see it. So today, I'm going to use a Sharpie marker. Nice black lines. You'll be able to see it. Okay. One of the things after we cut out our circle, we're going to cut out my main circle. We're going to have to figure out where 120 degrees is. Very easy to do. Let's suppose this is my main line right here. Okay, we have 0 degrees. This is 90. So we know 60 is going to be somewhere in this area right here. Okay, but we don't know exactly where. So what I've done is I've taken a basic stick. I put a nail through it. That will be my pivot point. Drilled a hole at the other end. Doesn't matter exactly where, just as long as it's not off the wood. And I'm going to be able to stick my Sharpie in this hole, and I will be able to draw some arcs. I don't need to draw a whole arc all the way around, just 2 points. We're going to put my pivot point, my nail, right in the center. And we're going to draw a line. Okay, we are going to draw the same distance somewhere around the 60 degree mark. So I'm going to draw it somewhere around here. Okay, now all you have to do is take this pivot point, go over to where you drew your line, draw another arc right where these are, and right where it intersects is going to be your 60 degree mark from your center point. Okay, what we've actually done is we've drawn equal distances from the center to here, the center to here, and that to here is all equal. This is an equilateral triangle. So if we draw a line from here to here, here to here, and here to here, that is a perfect equal triangle, all sides the same. Therefore, all angles are the same inside. We've got 3 angles. We know an inside angle, add up all your angles of a triangle, is going to be 180 degrees. Therefore, you will have 60 degrees at each spot. So, if I draw a line from here to here, if I draw my line right off the board, that is 60 degrees. Which means from here to here is 120 degrees. That will be my 120 degree outside diameter arc. The rest will come in 1 1/4 inches and be my inside arc all the way around to here. There's your 120 degree arc. So let's go back to the bandsaw and let's do this thing. Alright, we're back at my bandsaw. I've got my circle cutting jig all set up. I've got my slider with the 3/4 inch hole in it. I've got it lined up to the mark that I made previously on my masking tape. This will be the mark for my outside arc. Then I will move it in 1 1/4 inch in order to make my inside arc. Okay, I've got my stop block set up so it stops right where the teeth line up with the top dead center line. Okay, I've taken my stock with all the lines that we've drawn previously and I put on my self-adhesive block with my 3/4 inch dowel center. Alright, I'm going to flip that over and all we're going to do is we are going to start up the bandsaw, push this in so it starts to cut. We're going to spin it. Once it reaches top dead center, we're going to spin the board. That will make our 16 3/8 inch our circle. Okay, here we go. we now have a 16 3/8 inch circle. Okay, I've got my line 60 degrees to 120 degrees. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off my jig. I'm going to cut in 1 1/4 inch from both sides. I'm going to measure in 1 1/4 inches on both parts. This is my 120 degrees right here. So the rest has to come off. Alright. I'm going to remove my circle cutting jig. And I'm going to start up my bandsaw. And I'm going to cut in to that line. Alright, the idea now is to cut an arc all the way in here, all the way around from the 60 degrees backwards to the 120 degree mark. In order to do that, I'm going to slide my circle jig over 1 1/4 inch, which I've already lined up with my tape. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this part out. I'm going to slide this back in so it starts cutting right where the line comes out, and I'm going to eventually go all the way in, and I'm going to end up at this spot here. Then I'll flip it over. I'll have to put my other self-adhesive sticker on it. That's why I made a center spot on the reverse side. Okay. So I want to slide this in, starting right where the line starts to cut in the circle. Okay, so all I have to do now is I'm going to put my other self-adhesive part on here, flip it over, and cut the rest so it's even to here. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to simply put my other part on the bottom side of it. Okay, and here we go. Now, all I have to do, pull off these self-adhesive stickers, and there is my baffle, complete with 120 degrees and the rest in 1 1/4 inch. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll let you know how my dust separator goes. Thank you very much.